everyone, and a warm welcome to all our listeners. I'm Florence Habeck, Kinexa Global Marketing Director, and we are delighted to welcome you to part 2 of our Vigilance Medical Device webinar series. Before we start the presentation, I'd like to say a few words about Kinexa. Kinexa specializes in providing innovative end-to-end safety technology and services tailored for a broad range of pharmaceutical and technology companies, as well as public health and regulatory agencies. Thank you for joining us. This webinar aims to provide you with a comprehensive understanding of post-marketing safety surveillance for medical device and drug safety combination products in the US and in Europe. We will explore reporting essential and current trends while learning best practice for monitoring and reporting safety concerns. To kick off, I would like to go over a few housekeeping matters. This webinar will run about 50 minutes, followed by a short Q&A section at the end. We welcome our listeners to ask questions at any point throughout the presentation by using the Q&A section available on your screen. Now it's my pleasure to introduce you to Veronika Valdova. Veronika brings extensive experience in the pharma and medical device sector, with a focus on EU and US regulatory compliance. Since 2017, Veronika has been assisting device manufacturers in transitioning from MDD to MDR, ensuring adherence to the latest regulation. I will now hand over the presentation to our expert speaker, Veronika.
Thank you, Florence, for inviting me to participate in this webinar. It's a pleasure. In this webinar, I'll focus on introduction of drug device and combination products in the US and in Europe, and reporting essentials and obligations. In the European Union, there are 4 essential types of combination products based on authorization documents or certification these documents receive. This is the biggest differentiator, the regulatory pathway, how these products are going to be handled in the future. The first group of products are integral drug-device combinations. We will come back to definition a little bit later. An example would be a prefilled syringe or an inhaler that cannot be taken apart. The manufacturer the marketing authorization holder in this instance would submit an application to the European Medicines Agency or the competent authority, the national competent authority, which might require input from a notified body to cover the device component. The output would be marketing authorization with a notified body opinion. On the other hand, non-integral drug device combinations, such as dry powder inhaler that are co-packaged with medicine capsules, each of these are approved separately. Here, we would have marketing authorization for a medicinal product and a CE certificate for the delivery device. So it would be 2 distinct products. And the other 2 are devices with ancillary medicinal substance and devices intended to administer medicines, where you would get a CE certificate, sometimes with consultation from a competent authority for medicinal products, or a CE certificate with nothing else. This is absolutely essential because this concept determines how these products are handled for safety reporting. In the US, the concept is fairly similar. When we look at drugs, they follow drug regulations. Biologics follow biologics regulation, which is 21 CFR 600/606. Or for drugs, it's Part 314. And devices follow 803 and 806. But for combination products, it would be yet another part, which is the Part 4, which is the component, which is the regulation that covers combination products as such. The European definition of drug device combination products is somewhat confusing. You can find the definition in EU MDR, and it's Article 1, Paragraph 8 or 9. And what is of note is the fact that integral products, that's what we are talking about before, are covered by second subparagraph of Article 1.8 and Article 1.9. The entire concept of how this complex definition should be interpreted is explained in a guideline on medicinal products used with a medical device. You can see the link in the slide description. Here, they clearly differentiate drug device combination products to integral, co-packaged, and referenced. Integral products would be the single-use prefilled syringes, drug-releasing IUDs, dry powder inhalers, pre-assembled with a medicinal product, with no refill. Co-packaged would be drug device combinations where you have got a medicinal product and a medical device packaged together, and referenced products where you have the product information, either an SPC or a package leaflet of the medicinal product that clearly refers to a specific medical device. So that would be referenced. So the guideline is very helpful in determining which product is which. In the US, these definitions are directly in subpart 8, section 3.2, which makes it a lot easier because the definition is very clear and it's directly in the regulation itself. You do not need to rely on a specific guideline to differentiate between, to understand what they mean by a combination product. Also, there is an office for drug device combination products or combination products within the FDA, which handles combination products separately, and they are fairly quick to respond. So the situation is much easier than in Europe. Now, this is how combination products are understood in the US. The paragraph 3.2e defines drug device combination products as those that combine either drug with device, drug with biologic, device with biologic, or the three of them together. They can be a single entity. Those would be approved as actual combination products. Then you have got single entity combination products where you have got a single entity. It's like integral in Europe. They are in the same packaging with either of those three components. Then co-packaged, where they can be used separately, and cross-labeled, where you have got a device separately and a drug separately, and they are meant to be used together based on proposed labeling. Reporting obligations of combination products very specifically depend on how the product is approved. So it's application type and applicant type in the US, and regulation pathway in Europe. So it's the status of the product that defines how the product will be handled. In Europe, medical device reporting timelines would be 2 days for public health threats, 10 days for serious incidents, and 15 days for any other reportable incidents. These incidents are supposed to be submitted via UDAMED. However, this is not yet functional. So until it becomes functional, we still use MedDev, which has been in force since the MDD, and the incidents would be submitted to a national competent authority for devices, and the competent authority itself would then share it within UDAMED and by other means. So 2 days, 10 days, 15 days. The responsible party is the manufacturer of the medical device. This is important as we will come to the economic operators a little later. Also, as you saw in the first slide, let's get back to it for a moment. Here, the regulatory agency is European Medicines Agency and then the notified body. So the responsible party is always the manufacturer for the device component and marketing authorization holder if you are dealing with a drug. Now, apologies for this backtracking. So manufacturer for a device. With forms for a medical device, you look at a manufacturer incident report, field safety corrective action form, PSR report form, and a trend report. Manufacturer incident report form is used for reporting medical device incidents to the national competent authorities, since we do not have UNOMED yet. For pharmaceutical people or pharmacovigilance department dealing with medical device incidents, the important component would be that you need to communicate any kind of investigation with the quality assurance department. And the PRRC, field safety corrective actions. And that's if there is, for example, a change in labeling or a design change or a recall that needs to be communicated to the customers and to the general public, that can be a consequence of a series of incidents or some other public health threat that might emerge. With periodic safety update report, with periodic summary reports, it's a consequence of a field safety corrective action when there is a number of incidents that are of the same nature, have the same root cause, and are already covered by a field safety corrective action, and that needs to be always agreed in advance with the competent authority. Trend reports cover everything else, so that's something that the manufacturer is tracking all the incidents that occur, not just the serious ones. With reporting of combination products in the US, we are looking at 15-day reports for drugs and drug constituent parts. Then device constituent parts would have timeline 30 days. You always see the timeline, the component, and the regulation that applies, where you find the actual verbiage of what is required. With combination products, this can get fairly complex, and especially when you have one product that is available on the market in Europe as well as in the US, it's always important to understand which regulations apply to which product in which jurisdiction. That defines how it's going to be handled in the future. With non-integral products in Europe, in the EU, we have got an emphasis on two individual regulated components, drug and a device. If co-packaged, then EU MDR applies to the medical device component, and medicinal product directive applies to the drug constituent part. In the US, co-packaged products are covered by Part 3.2. There's option 1 for this type of reporting. The traditional approach allows for separate reporting of regulated components, and the streamlined approach, which is another version that is available, it's possible to leverage some common elements in good manufacturing practice and address the provisions that would be different in for each, which is for device, a drug, or a biologic. So address the common components, common elements, and then all the others separately. This is a very attractive option since it prevents duplication of efforts. However, it has its challenges, which we are going to go through a little bit later. When designing a system for reporting drug-device combination products, it's important to bear in mind the essential tasks that the procedure needs to cover. First, it's adverse events or incidents that have to come from a collection of complaints. There needs to be an escalation of complaints to adverse incidents. Then reporting timelines for each of these incidents in the individual jurisdictions. Then there needs to be a mechanism to ensure that advisory notices are reported within the specified timeframes to the correct regulatory authority without duplication, and that the manufacturer maintains appropriate records of this activity. Complaint handling is the absolutely essential component of any quality management system within the medical device domain. It's described in full detail in ISO 13485, and it generally covers a definition of a complaint that needs to cover the definition in all regions where the product is on the market, then recording the awareness date when it was first recorded by the first person in the company, then all kinds of forms that may differ from device to device. Remember, for devices, it's a common practice that forms differ from one device to another and typically cover the relevant risks. It's not like with drugs, where the form tends to be exactly the same for all drugs. For devices, this is typically not the case. Every employee in the company has to have a mandate to collect complaints from the terrain, pass them on. There needs to be a clear method of contact, so information is forwarded to the relevant department every time. It's handled appropriately. They need to be investigated, escalated when necessary. Somebody needs to determine reportability of events. Let's remember that with medical devices, sometimes malfunctions that did not result in a patient injury are also reportable. So there needs to be this escalation process described, and communication between all the relevant parties, external and internal, especially when pharmacovigilance department of a pharma company is taking on portfolio of a company that was acquired. The interfaces between individual economic operator roles and internal departments can get fairly complex. So it's always important to understand who is responsible for the product itself. Vigilance procedure covers handling of reportable incidents. This requires not just timelines and instructions how to complete the report, but also any investigation and follow-up, which requires interface with the quality management department and possibly PRRC. When we compare the requirements in the US and in Europe, we note some similarities and some differences. Similarities are that both in the EU and in the US, there must be an adequate pharmacovigilance system for the medicinal product to comply with obligations on the recording or reporting of adverse reactions and with post-marketing surveillance requirements regarding the medicinal products. The differences are that vigilance in the US for post-market safety reporting is driven by application type and applicant type. That's the second slide that we saw. The application-based reporting is supplemented with specific reporting elements for each of the constituent parts of the combination product. Same or similar reporting requirements also apply if a reportable event occurs in the similar constituent part of a combination product. There's an expectation that such event would be reported in the US against the US marketed product. So this gives you an obligation to monitor similar products. In the EU, reporting to a competent authority for medicinal product is sufficient. That's the competent authority for medicinal products and European Medicines Agency, depending on approval type. There is, however, no clear recommendation of reporting of device complaints with potential impact of drug delivery between national competent authority where the notified body is located and the reference authority for the medicinal product. There is assumption, or that's the practice so far, that the notified body and the national competent authority communicate any kind of issue with each other, and they do not require the manufacturer to do it themselves. In addition, post-market surveillance in the EU, there's no requirement to comply with Articles 83 to 86 of EU MDR for post-marketing surveillance of the device component of single integral combinations that is not CE marked. This is a little bit more in detail, but you'll be able to see the slides after the recording. Co-packaged products, there is this overlap between good manufacturing practice for medicinal products and QMS systems of medical devices. In Europe, ancillary medicinal substances in medical devices, single integral, reusable, and co-packaged products are expected to fully comply to entire regulation for each constituent part. In the US, we have got two options. You can either comply with entire regulation for each constituent part or utilize the streamlined approach, which means use the common elements of quality management system and then handle the differences. Although attractive, it means that it needs to be defined, which may sometimes be a challenge, especially when each component is manufactured or supplied by a different entity. So you may end up with multiple different quality management systems, even though the last entity, the applicant, is ultimately responsible. It may not always be practical to go this route if you're handling with you're dealing with different entities. The global trends in combination products is that there are more of them. There is a significant growth, or has been since about 2019. And the biggest growth is currently observed in drug delivery systems. That applies to implantables, implantable drug delivery systems, infusion pumps, any number of systems that might have a software component to them. So it really is becoming more and more complex, and it has impact on all parts of the life cycle. First one is integrating all these constituent parts into a combination product. That may mean some sort of electromechanical part with software and a drug or a device, or drug or a biologic that can have very specific properties that might be difficult to deliver. So it's a technological challenge. Another part is establishing the quality management system for all constituents, because each of these components can be handled by a different manufacturer or a different supplier. Additionally, there are regulatory challenges because this final classification may not be clear during the development, and the system can be set up for a drug whilst it eventually will become a device, or the quality management system can follow drug rules while in fact eventually it will be handled as a device. So it has a lot of challenges that clearly need to be communicated to the development team, so they understand what kind of technical files need to be prepared. And finally, it's the supply chain complexity, because it's typically not manufactured in one place. It can come from multiple different manufacturing sites, which need then to be handled as a single entity in the end, like a product for which there is one entity responsible. The challenges that we encounter with drug-device combination products include inconsistencies in the qualification and classification, and it can be anything from device, from software that is an add-on to a device, or products that are not described in those guidelines, and it's necessary to consult a notified body and European Medicines Agency for clarification how it's going to be classified in the future. This affects not only novel products, but also products that where some of those components changed classification due to MDD, MDR transition. Device classification issues may have an impact on the requirement to get an opinion from a notified body if the product is an Article 117, which is a drug. So we have got a combination product where we do not expect to have to provide a notified body opinion, and this becomes the case. So that involves a lot of additional requirements such as GSPR, good general safety and performance requirements, or it requires multiple different types of expertise that may not be readily available within the company. Additional part is definition of a substantial change, which has an impact on how much additional documentation needs to be prepared. To summarize best practices, it's essential to have clarity on classification of the product in all jurisdictions and on applicable standards of all constituent parts and the product as a whole, because this is fundamental for determining any other obligations in terms of reporting. The quality management system must cover both drug and device component. In the US, it's possible to utilize the common elements and handle the differences separately rather than having to comply with the full set. Another topic in itself is a process for interfaces between economic operators and internal and external stakeholders. With this many suppliers and interface between a manufacturer of the device component and marketing authorization holder of the drug component, and outsource or handling of the vigilance part by a pharmacovigilance department, which is a pharmaceutical company, a marketing authorization holder. It's absolutely essential to understand who is responsible for the product as a whole and for each of the components. Design controls need to be integrated with risk management procedures. Vigilance procedures must exist. This includes escalation from complaints, and lastly, there's a need to continuously update the systems and procedures for all the documents that need to be produced for a device or the device component. The impact on operations is profound to continue to ensure continued market access. In Europe, combination products are automatically class 3 by the virtue of the presence of medicinal substance. This has an impact on the extent of clinical data requirements for clinical evaluation reports and post-market clinical follow-ups to demonstrate device compliance. Substantial changes, if there are any, they may require a regulatory review and slow down the process and force additional documentation that otherwise wouldn't be required. To summarize, the definitions of drug device combination products in the US and in Europe are similar, but they are not identical. In the US, we have got single entity, co-packaged, and cross-labeled products, whilst in the EU, we call them integral, co-packaged, and referenced. The reporting timelines are driven by the type of application and applicant type in the US. You remember the table that I presented in the beginning, and a regulatory pathway in the EU. That's the first slide that you saw about how the product, what kind of documentation the product receives. To prepare processes that need to be that need to exist for this type of products. Obviously, it's quality management system for devices and for drugs. There needs to be complaints handling procedure, escalation to a reportable incident, investigation, reporting, handling of advisory notices, that's field safety corrective actions and recalls, and summary and trend reporting, and update of any additional documentation in as a consequence of information coming from the vigilance system itself. There is the complexity of drug delivery systems is increasing. As a consequence, it's essential to have mature information handling systems within a company, because one product that is highly complex can test the entire process within a company in ways that really are unknown from other types of products. The challenges that we typically encounter are inconsistencies in classification, even with products that are very similar otherwise, but can have a different classification, especially in Europe. Operator roles, that's the interfaces between internal departments and manufacturers of individual components, and the entity that is handling the vigilance process. Compliance with GSPR requirements, that's general safety and performance requirements for the device component. Defining and handling substantial change. And lastly, it's consulting the notified bodies in case of lack of understanding or clarity or classification, or even just handling some very basic questions. It may be very difficult to get any answer in real time. The formal process can be very lengthy, and it's not unusual to have this kind of inquiries answered within 13 months and longer. So anything that can be sorted out in advance is a better option. So that concludes my part, and I would like to hand it over back to Florence.
Thank you very much, Veronika, for your thorough presentation and key takeaways, helping our listeners to have a better understanding of drugs devices combination product in Europe and US. Let's see now if we can answer a few questions collected. And our first question is, how do you report device incident in Europe and the US? Can you have all report in the same database? Veronika, can you please help us with an answer, please?
In the US, device incidents are reported to the FDA, just like drugs. In the EU, medical device incident reports go to national competent authority until EUDOMED is established. And medicine products go to either a national competent authority for drugs in the member state or to European Medicines Agency based on the type of application. So that's where it goes, and how it's done. It's either on MedDev in the US. In theory, it's a MedDev, but in fact, it's electronic reporting through a gateway. They want it electronically. In Europe, we have got the MIR form, which also has an electronic version, XML. The reporting is the same as it used to be under MDD, which means through a gateway to the national competent authority on a PDF form, so it's human readable, as well as the XML file. And can it reside on the same database? It absolutely can. All the big databases, the big providers have a device module, and they also are able to handle combination products and are pretty good at handling the different requirements in individual jurisdictions. So it's all a matter of setting it up correctly. So adding a device module to a drug safety database is a perfectly good option. If the manufacturer does not have a database, it's also possible to it's possible to have it on two databases as well. That's not a problem in itself. The key part is that the information needs to be retrievable in near real time, considering the short timelines for public health threats. Does it answer your question?
Yes, thank you, Veronika. Great. Our next question is, what do when I am unsure about classification of my product and which regulation apply to vigilance reporting? Would you be
Well,
able to guide us with this question?
that's the first part of the presentation that we did today. That it depends on application type and type of applicant in the US, and the regulatory pathway in the EU would applies. So there absolutely needs to be a clarity on classification of the product, and then would regulations apply to the specific product in the specific jurisdiction. You find it in the approval letter. So going back to the documentation that you received, it typically it specifies what post-market vigilance reporting obligations apply. So it tells you either it's a drug, that would be Medicinal Products Directive, or MDR would apply, or if there's any kind of special requirements, then it would be specified in the approval documentation. Generally, it's not sent to both unless it's a co-packaged product. For single integrals, it only goes to one. So even if there are two components, it always goes to just one. They are supposed to communicate with each other.
Great. Thank you very much, Veronika. We do have some short time left for a third question, which is, where do I find the definition of combination product in Europe? Would you be able to help?
There are 3 articles that define combination products in Europe. One is Article 1, Paragraph 8, Article 1, Paragraph 9, and Article 117, which is drugs. So that's you find it directly in the EU MDR. But that's the definition that is not exactly helpful because it's very complicated. So for a more sensible definition, you can go to guideline, which you have listed in this presentation. So you can just type it in Google and find it on the European Commission website and download the guideline. And here they clearly explain what how the definitions shall be interpreted, and what the borderline products are. Does it answer your question?
Okay, great. Thank you, Veronika. Well, a big thank you to you again for sharing your expertise today with us. Unfortunately, we are now running out of time for another question. Nevertheless, we will take the time to answer all outstanding questions asked during our webinar via email. Please do share your thoughts. Your feedback are important to us. The webinar will be available to watch again on the Kinexa website resource section really soon. That concludes our webinar for today. Once again, thank you, and until next time.